Could be some hazards on the roads, those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid with some sunshine. We could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
Heavy showers first thing will be followed by a warm, cosy day. Boxed boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
Good evening, this is the latest AI travel news from GBNews.com. The A830 at Corribeg experiences restrictions due to a collision, urging caution. Planned maintenance closes the eastbound M4 between Junction 48 at Hendy and Junction 47 at Penlegaya with diversions. In Kent, the M25 anti-clockwise between Junction 3 and Junction 2 endures congestion, causing 15-minute delays. Expect normal conditions between 7:30 and 7:45 tonight. And on the trains, there is disruption on Avanti West Coast between Wolverhampton and Birmingham New Street, and on Chiltern Railways between Birmingham Snow Hill and Leamington Spa or Stratford upon Avon. For more travel news, go to gbnews.com.
Crash Law 24 sponsors GB News Traffic and Travel Report.
We're kick-starting summer with your chance to win our biggest cash prize to date, as there's an incredible £54,321 in tax-free cash to be won. What would you spend it on? A brand new car, the holiday of a lifetime, or just sit back, relax and remove some of those day-to-day financial stresses? For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message, or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand.
Welcome back to Britain's Newsroom with Andrew and Beth.
Hello everyone, Patrick Christie's here.
I'm Michelle Duke, Britain's News Channel.
Access the stories that matter to you. Take the GB News family with you on any device. And as long as you have an internet connection, tune in to GB News anywhere on the planet or beyond. GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk then?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start, no.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up? About 10.
So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m, only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's News Channel.
Tonight, we discuss Rachel Reeves' spending review. What was really in it? Did it amount to much? And will taxes inevitably have to rise? I'll also talk about her jibe against me that I spend too much time in the Westminster Arms. Well, maybe she ought to come out and meet a few real people. It would appear that once again the British government has negotiated yet another surrender. This time, it's the border in Gibraltar. And the Red Arrows. Are we really Are we really going to replace the Red Arrows with Russian-made planes, or should we go for British ones? All of that and much more over the course of the next hour. But first, the news with Tatiana Sanchez.
Nigel, thank you very much. The top stories. We are renewing Britain and ensuring working people are better off. That was the Chancellor's message as she delivered her spending review, pledging a £190 billion boost to the day-to-day running of public services. Rachel Reeves announced funding increases for transport networks, defence capabilities and energy security, as well as ending the use of asylum hotels by 2029 through new funding to tackle the backlog. NHS funding will rise by 3% a year in real terms, and the Chancellor also extended the £3 bus fare cap to 2027. The Chancellor also announced a £39 billion house building boost and £7 billion for 14,000 prison placements. Elsewhere, the UK has agreed to a fluid border between Gibraltar and Spain, clearing the way to finalise a post-Brexit deal on the territory with the EU. Under the agreement, checks will not be required on people crossing the border. There will be dual border control checks for arrivals by air at Gibraltar Airport, carried out by Gibraltar and the Spanish officials. President of the EU Commission Ursula von der Leyen welcomed the deal, calling it an historic agreement. Talks on rules governing the border of Spain and Gibraltar have been ongoing since Britain left the EU in 2020. Foreign Secretary David Lammy said the agreement was a breakthrough. Serious disorders broken out in Salford this afternoon after a group of up to 60 masked youths descended on a road in the city. A 16-year-old girl has been arrested on suspicion of assaulting an officer, and a police car has also been damaged while Greater Manchester Police put a dispersal order in place. A witness told the Manchester Evening News that bricks and stones had been left strewn across the road in pretty intense scenes. 6 people have been arrested and 32 officers injured following a second night of violent disorder in Ballymena in Northern Ireland. One of those arrested has been charged. There are reports that multiple cars and properties were set alight on fire as rioters threw petrol bombs, fireworks and masonry at police. The scenes last night came after similar violent disorder in the town on Monday night, which followed an earlier peaceful protest which was organised in support of the family of a girl who was the victim of an alleged sexual assault. 2 14-year-old boys appeared in court on Monday charged with attempted rape. And Brian Wilson, the co-founder and primary songwriter of the Beach Boys, has died, his family has announced. He helped pioneer the studio as instrument, influencing generations of musicians in pop and beyond. It was revealed in early 2024 that he was living with a neurocognitive disorder akin to dementia. Wilson was 82 years old. In a statement published on his website, his family said, "We're heartbroken to announce that our beloved father, Brian Wilson, has passed away. We're at loss for words right now." Rolling Stone Ronnie Wood has said he is in mourning. And those are the latest headlines. For now, it's back to Farage.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
It had a big billing. Yes, it was Rachel Reeves's spending review. Much speculation, a packed House of Commons, and Rachel Reeves, a heavily scripted, I have to say, Rachel Reeves, telling us just how well everything was going in the country. Let's have a listen.
Mr. Speaker, every day it becomes clearer. It is Labour, and only Labour, that has a credible plan for the renewal of Britain.
Well, I've no doubt you're all feeling renewed at home after nearly a year of this Labour government. Now, responding on behalf of the Conservatives, the Shadow Chancellor, Mel Stride, made 1 or 2 quite strong points. He made them rather well, actually.
This spending review is not worth the paper that it is written on. Because the Chancellor has completely lost control. This is the spend now, tax later review. Because the Right Honourable Lady knows she will need to come back here in the autumn with yet more taxes. And a cruel summer of speculation awaits. How can we possibly take this Chancellor seriously after the chaos of the last 12 months?
Well, it's funny how each side throws that word chaos at each other. I think they're both fairly guilty of that. What did I see today? I saw massive promises for huge increases in health spending, proposed cuts in various departments, which may or may not happen, big promises on a reduction of what we'd have to spend on illegal people crossing the channel claiming asylum. But really, overall, I didn't see an awful lot today. What I do think is here's a government whose spending is out of control. And I think, personally, inevitably, taxes, indeed the tax burden, will have to rise when it comes to the budget in the autumn. That's my view. Love to know what you think. Does this mean taxes rise? Tweet #Farage on GB News or email farage@gbnews.com. But somebody who knows far more about these issues than I do by a country mile is, of course, Liam Halligan, economist, Telegraph, Sunday Telegraph economist, and Planet Normal podcast host. Liam, was it the big, great event we were expecting?
It was a nothing burger, Nigel, in my view. It was pure political theatre. It was, if I may say so, on a family show, it was like a Rachel Reeves wet dream, because she was able to make all these kind of spending pledges, much to the delectation of the Labour left, without saying how she was going to pay for them. But of course, financial markets were watching, serious people were watching.
And, by the way, no mention at any time of financial markets.
No, which was astonishing, given where we are. Let's just... You know, GB News viewers know me, hopefully, for explaining complicated things in a simple way. So let me just try and explain this. Back in October 2022, at the peak of that Liz Truss mini-budget crisis, you and I covered it in great detail here on GB News, the gilt yield, the amount of money the government must pay to borrow, was about 4.6% at its peak, at its peak. Panic, the BBC going into, you know, complete meltdown about the end of the world. That yield, the government borrowing costs, the amount of the markets charge the government, which is all to do with how credible they think the plans are, it's been way above that peak for months. It's been way above 5% for 30-year money. She should have reassured the financial markets. She should have said how she's going to rein in public sector spending, or at least slow down the rate of increase, not least because the one big saving she hopes to make, or again, a slowdown in the rate of increase of spending on welfare, that's been completely reversed before it was even implemented. Yeah. So here you have financial markets, they're looking and they're waiting. The numbers don't add up at all, and that's why, just as Labour did last summer, after they got into office in July, we then had to wait till October for a budget when they just said, oh, it's terrible, there are black holes everywhere, the Tories have left us this complete mess. Everyone thought taxes would go up over the summer, investment therefore stone dead. Yeah. She's just put the economy in irons for the whole of the summer. I thought Mel Stride did do well. I don't think you're being overly generous there. It is now a long, cruel summer of wondering where the tax axe is going to fall as Reeves Truss makes
that affects employers.
Indeed.
And we saw the employment figures yesterday, disastrously down. But interestingly, vacancies down as well, which means people aren't even advertising for jobs.
That's right. I mean, I know from my business activities, being on the boards of various entities, you know, hiring has stopped because people are really worried about the cost of hiring with the employer NIC rise. Yep. You can't pick up those little part-time jobs in hospitality you used to be able to, because the threshold for NIC contributions from employers has come down from 12 grand to simply 5 grand. That's even affecting students who are trying to get...
You're working in a bar for 2
hours. Trying to get jobs. Inflation-busting increases in the minimum wage, again, particularly for younger people, and that's before what's called the Employment Rights Bill. Now, we all want employees to have decent rights, but Labour's Employment Rights Bill, going through the Lords as we speak, it takes us back to the 70s, Nigel.
Well, isn't the problem?
It takes us back to too much trade union power.
What I'm struck by with employment rights is if you're a company with 5,000 employees, you can probably manage with the new law that comes in.
Because you've got a compliance department.
But if you're a small company with 5 employees, exactly the same rules apply. And they don't seem to understand
They don't understand that because there's no one on the front bench with any business experience whatsoever. You know, your party, you've got business experience, Richard Tice has business experience, Zia Youssef has business experience, and all the rest of it. The Tories, in fairness, Andrew Griffiths has business experience, the Shadow Business Secretary, Mel Stride, the Shadow Chancellor, Kemi Badenoch herself. You've all been in business. Many of you have employed people. No one on the front bench of Labour has employed anyone.
Truly extraordinary.
And no one has got any serious knowledge of financial markets and how they might react. And that's really, really worrying.
No,
You're right, it is the small businesses. They are the people that run Britain and make the economy work.
I kind of feel that Parliament doesn't even know who these 5.5 million people are.
That's right.
The black hole, the 22 billion pound black hole, and there we are. It was Keir Starmer was doing it again at PMQs. Isn't the truth, with all the projections we got in the October budget, there's already a Labour black hole?
There's already, well, firstly, the Tory black hole, it's complete fiction, it's nonsense. Even Paul Johnson, who's probably the most respected fiscal economist in this country, he runs an institution called the IFS. It's like a sort of broadly neutral watchdog, no friend of the Tories or certainly of reform.
No.
He said this black hole, it was obvious to anyone who dared look. It was Labour's excuse for increasing taxes, tax rises that weren't in their manifesto.
Okay.
Since then, yes, of course, Rachel Reeves has made growth assumptions and implemented spending, and the tax revenues are falling short of her projections. She raised capital gains tax by 4%. Guess what? Less capital gains tax revenue.
We've seen that already.
Why do you think that is? You know, the fact that she's tried to get more VAT on school fees. Well, kids going to private schools have fallen dramatically. Less tax revenue. So under many headings, she's getting a lot less tax revenue than she thought she would. And during the summer, Nigel, we're going to get from HMRC interim figures of half-year tax receipts, and they're going to be ghastly, and that is going to set the hairs running in terms of where the taxes are going to come in October. So no more investment and a lot less hiring.
Projected borrowing for this year is 150 billion.
Yeah.
Almost exactly the same number as the 2008 bailout. Now, I know there's been a bit of inflation since, but it is a gigantic number. They're borrowing far more than their projections.
Yep.
Growth is, well, let's face it, dismal.
Yeah.
Unemployment's rising quite rapidly. Seems to me that come October, they have no choice but to increase the tax burden.
I think that's true. You know, you and I both love this country. We'll be accused of talking down the country. I think GB News viewers and listeners would prefer we told them what's actually happening. Nothing that you've said there is alarmist at all. In fact, it's quite a sanguine analysis of what's happening, and it's factually completely correct, if I may say so. Yeah, my concern is that Labour is doing things that are ideological rather than things that are rational. Faced with a problem in the fiscal accounts, faced with a gap in the public finances, Rachel Reeves, every instinct in her body will tell her to just keep jacking up taxes. We're now at the point, Nigel, where the more you put up tax rates, I think the less tax revenue you're going to get, because you will just kill activity.
Plus, we have the exodus. Now, the last time we saw figures, it showed that 10,800 very rich people had left the country. Those figures have not yet been updated. From what I'm hearing, the next year could be 20,000, 25,000.
And you know the statistic, it's an incredible number. The top 1% of earners pay 30% of income tax. And of course, a lot of the people we're talking about who are leaving are those top 1%. And then there's another kind of tenth of 1% people who don't earn income, they earn dividends and wealth. And they also account for a massive slug of taxation. If you send those people packing gleefully, as Labour are with their sort of sixth form politics, bye-bye rich people, you are going to have massive problems making the sums add up.
How pessimistic are you?
I'm generally an optimistic person.
No, I
generally believe in the genius of British people and the resilience of British people. But even the great entrepreneurs of this country, the alarm clock classes, the hard-working families that we have, that we're blessed to have, even they can't keep going when they've got their hands tied behind their backs and their ankles manacled. And that is what's happening under this government. It's a war on the private sector that we're seeing. That's what really worries me.
Well, they've carried all the costs, haven't they?
They have.
Of literally everything.
The public sector protected at all times.
So, I mean, I was always sceptical about this idea that she was 10 years an economist at the Bank of England. My colleague Lee Anderson called her Rachel from accounts, which was quite funny.
That's stuck, isn't it?
Yeah, that's probably more accurately Rachel from complaints. Is it reasonable and fair? I'm trying to be as objective about this as I can. She's hopelessly out of her depth, isn't she?
I think she's out of her depth because she is driven above all by ideology and party politics. She's absolutely petrified she's going to be removed from her post. She's got, the Red Queen, Big Ange.
Yeah, who is so left-wing on tax.
Unbelievable. And she is the person behind this employment rights bill. Again, I don't begrudge people rights at work.
No, having good money and having rights.
People would rather be employed, and this is just going to kill a lot of employment stone dead. And even Starmer himself, after Big Ange, deftly leaked her memo about all these tax rises that she wanted, exciting, enticing the Labour backbenchers, then Keir Starmer himself immedately moved to not make the savings on welfare that Labour had committed to. What do you think financial markets think of that? They think, well, these people they're not serious people. They obviously can't read balance sheets. They obviously think this is all about student politics rather than mathematics and making the sums add up. I am generally optimistic about this country, but I do worry that Labour is killing enterprise and entrepreneurship stone dead.
Final last question. Completely unfair one.
Go on.
How long does she last?
Well, I think politics of her own party may oust her relatively soon. Maybe they'll keep her there so she can take the heat for the tax rises
in the budget this autumn.
Yeah, and then get rid of her for somebody who, strap yourself in, Nigel, is even more left-wing.
Liam, absolute pleasure to have you here again on the programme with me. Well, there we are. That was a pretty bearish analysis from the ever-genial, optimistic Liam Halligan. Gosh, if he's getting depressed, things must be really rotten. In a moment, we discuss pubs. No, seriously. No, seriously. It seemed that one of the big pitches of the Chancellor of the Exchequer during her statement was to speculate as to where I go for an early evening drink. I'm not joking. All of that just after the break.
Exciting news. Every Friday, my Patrick Christie's Tonight Show is going to have a twist to it. We're welcoming some special guests. You. That's right, on Fridays I'm going to be doing my show in front of a live studio audience because this show is about you and what you have to say. It's going to be the same big debates, same big topics, same big opinions, but every Friday night at 9 p.m. you are invited to come on down to Patrick Christie's Tonight to be a part of the action. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
GB News Breakfast, every day from 6 a.m.
For working class families, what are the fundamentals that they are looking for? They're looking for good housing, they're looking for good schools, they're looking for good jobs that give them a fair day's wage for a fair day's graft, they're looking for a strong NHS, and they're looking for safe communities to live in. When you have all of those foundations in place, then it means that children, young people, they can flourish, they can do well alongside their parents and their grandparents. And I think if you look at what this Labour government has done, we're 10 months into a 5-year programme here, by the way, but in the first 10 months of this new Labour government, they have put major policy reforms in place across all 5 of those key foundations for working class families. And so I'm confident that we're starting to see some of it here in Basildon, where Basildon is starting to get better again. I'm confident that by the end of this Parliament, because of what the government is doing now, we will start to see some positive changes for working class families.
OK, Christo, what do you make of it?
I think that Bridget Phillipson makes a very fair point when she says that white working class families and those peoples are being left behind. But unfortunately, her actions as Education Secretary don't align with what I believe are these completely hollow words. So, for instance, we've seen white working class boys particularly, but now girls, falling behind in education for absolutely years. So why Bridget Phillipson would then bring in a policy that is seeing, by the latest figures, 13,000 private school pupils entering the state school system, why on earth she would bring in that kind of policy, whilst then having the audacity to say that she's worried about white working class pupils not doing so well, is beyond me.
GB News, the People's Channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I asked you guys at home, does all of this mean that taxes will rise in the budget in the autumn? Couple of responses. Andy says, Nigel, I think you were right when you said the real black hole was the 2.7 trillion black hole, not the 25 billion one. I was referring there to public sector pensions, and it's something about which this country is going to have a proper debate because it's serious. Jeff says, how great to see Liam Halligan back on the airwaves. I'm inclined to agree that today's spending review was very underwhelming. Right, let's keep going with the politics of it. I'm joined by Michelle Donnellan, first time on the show with me, former Conservative MP and Culture Secretary, and glued in regular Lloyd Russell-Moyle, former Labour MP. So let's begin with something slightly lighter-hearted, or is it? I thought it's very interesting, the sheer number of times that Rachel Reeves referred to the honourable member for Clacton. And that itself's contentious, obviously. But let's just have a look at this clip and try and work out what she was doing.
Now, perhaps the member for Clacton should spend some more time focusing on the priorities of the British people and less time in the Westminster Arms. Although, Mr. Speaker, after this week, perhaps the Two Chairman pub might be a better fit.
Now, that's a very Westminster joke, because the Westminster Arms, just up the alleyway from it, is the Crown and Two Chairmen. So that was what she was referring to, Zia Youssef, David Bull. It was really witty, really funny, so she couldn't possibly have written it herself, in my opinion. But anyway, we've just got some drinks delivered from the Westminster Arms, so I'm going to say cheers to my panel. And cheers, Rachel Reeves. And I recommend, Chancellor, that you visit a few more pubs, that you go out and meet men and women running small businesses who've been really hurt by that budget you brought in last year. Lloyd, it wasn't just that. She mentioned constituencies. She mentioned Peterborough. She mentioned Darlington. She mentioned Bolsover. These are all going to get extra money, and I was struck. Every single one of them was a potential Reform target seat and a Labour marginal. This was pork barrel politics, naked politics of the most extraordinary kind.
I think that's a little unfair.
Is it? Why?
In the sense that I think every government has been targeting those seats in particular, because those seats not only are swing seats, but there is a consensus, I think, possibly even you might agree, that a number of those seats have been left behind. They've been ignored by Westminster for too long. They haven't been invested in. London's had too much investment. Whenever we want to do investments in the north, they're halfway done and then they get cancelled or botched. And that's why Boris had the levelling up agenda. That's why they're doing this. The problem is just throwing money at it will not solve the structural problem. And that's why last week I said she has a few months to turn this around, to turn her image around, that she's not just continuation, Rachel, but that she actually does believe in change. And if she doesn't, the only thing Keir will have to do is reshuffle her out.
It's very interesting, Michelle. I was sitting next to Lee Anderson, former colleague of yours, and when she mentioned money for this and money for that, and we were laughing our socks off. And Lloyd does have a point. A lot of these are swing seats and tight marginals, and maybe the Bolsovers have been pretty left behind. I take that point. But Lee said, well, actually, Boris did this with the Levelling Up Fund, chucked money everywhere, but kind of no one noticed, and it made no difference.
Yeah, but I think the difference with Boris, and it was really start today, was that there was a point to it. There was a vision everybody bought into. What does a better Britain look like? Today, it just felt a bit like a spreadsheet recital. It was scattergun, throwing money everywhere, showed that they don't really get what it's like out there, that there is a cost of living crisis. Growth is sluggish at best. Unemployment is up. Inflation is up. Things are hard for people. And yet we didn't get that big vision, that big radical government that was going to reform. They were just going to throw more money into black holes without changing anything.
Well, in theory, if you look at the spreadsheet spreadsheets, they are going to cut various spending in various departments, including the one that really interested me was the one about the costs of asylum and the costs of hotels. I don't know whether we got that clip ready, GB News, but we'll play it in a moment. Here we go. OK, she's going to find it. Really, really interesting that because The Sun this week running big front pages that the costs of 4.6, 4.7 billion a year to house people who've come by boat. Let's have a look at what she said.
I can confirm today that, led by the work of my right honourable friend, the Home Secretary, we will be ending the costly use of hotels to house asylum seekers in this Parliament. Funding that I have provided today, including from the Transformation Fund, will cut the asylum backlog, hear more appeal cases and return people who have no right to be here, saving the taxpayer £1 billion a year.
2 points, Lloyd, on that. One, hundreds of more millions to protect our borders, which I assume means a load more going to France. And the chance that there being no asylum hotels by 2029, how would you rate that out of 10?
Well, I think there is a pathway to get no asylum hotels. Will that be cheaper, or does that mean you are then renting houses in the open market? Is the difficulty. So I suspect she will meet the headline, but the real question is, will she meet the economic goal? Now, actually, I've sat down with a number of refugee and asylum charities, and I think there's a way forward here. I think you should be giving asylum seekers the right to work.
Oh, no.
Let me finish.
Oh, come on, untold millions. Come, yes, wonderful.
But you keep 100% of their pay until and if their application is approved. And if it's then approved, you deduct all the costs of looking after them out of that pay that you've kept for them. And if they don't want to work, you don't house them.
It's very clever. Typically you, really. It's very left-wing academic clever.
Yeah.
But, of course, all that would do is send a signal.
It's still an incentive. It's a massive incentive.
Because they would get no money.
Yeah, but they wouldn't perceive it that way. The headline is, come here and you get a job.
Yeah.
Politics is simple, and you need to break things down.
Come here and get a job.
And
very few people get refused because we can't send them anywhere anyway. I mean, this issue, Michelle, the unfairness of it, the cost of it, I really, rather like Rishi saying, we're going to stop the boats and not delivering, I think she's made a promise there she can't deliver.
I think so too, but I also think it's not ambitious anyway, is it? By 2029, I mean, come on, this is the thing that the public are irate about. Yeah. And this government promised to be different and to actually do what they were saying. And now she's standing up and wants applause for saying that she's going to do it within 4 years. I mean, that's going to make the general public physically sick, isn't it?
Funny one is this, though. Even though the hotels, the four-star hotels, the gymnasiums, the swimming pools, whatever it might be, even though that makes people angry, the HMOs, the houses of multiple occupancy with 15 Iraqis, for argument's sake, in the middle of a residential street, that makes people even angrier.
Well, it does. It's all about the fact that this is completely unfair. These people have not come in through legal means. They've cheated the system, and now they are...
No, these asylum hotels are not all people who have come by illegal means.
Well, no, that is true.
Let's be clear.
But predominantly.
I mean, I think the other way of doing it is to do a version of the Ukraine scheme. So you say, every year we see how many people are willing to house an asylum seeker, and that's the number we'll accept.
But that's not fair on the other people, is it?
You put, lots of countries put limits. Denmark has put limits. Lots of countries have said, this is the absolute number that we can afford to take, and we don't go over it. And it's just unfortunate, but we can't take a burden beyond that. And I think if you bring the public in on that journey and say, look, we will find a way that we match people up. But what we're not doing is spending money on hotels that should be for holidays.
Let me promise
and
you,
HMOs that should be for people that
Let me
need
promise you that undocumented young males coming into this country via those routes, you would not get many takers to put them up in their home.
Well, then maybe that's your solution. He's very happy as well.
But also that doesn't solve the problem at all, because if they're still coming, that's the fundamental problem, that they're coming here illegally.
But you need to do processes in France, and you need to then say...
All roads lead back to this. Quick final thought. Reeves gone by Christmas?
I think if this is successful and she manages to pay for it, then I think she has saved her skin.
But if taxes have to go up?
If taxes have to go up and they hurt ordinary people, then I think she's in a difficult situation.
No, I think Starmer leaves her as the fall guy. He swaps her out closer to the election so that he can have a different image.
There we are, diverse range of opinions. In a moment, we'll talk Gibraltar, we'll talk fishing deals, we'll talk Chagos. Does this government lose every single international negotiation? Because it looks that way to me.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
The heat and humidity in Spain might just trigger one or two heavy thundery showers. Heat is also building in Italy. Sunny in Greece, not too hot here though, because the winds are coming down from the north. Very small chance of a heavy shower breaking out over Croatia, but generally the weather's set fair here. Inland over Italy, also potentially there may be one or two heavy downpours. It's fine, it's dry, it's sunny in the Canaries. That will continue for the next few days, and the temperatures in Rome sticking in the mid-30s into the weekend.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been a warm and humid day today. That'll continue tonight and tomorrow, and the humidity sparking some thunderstorms in places too. Down to the southwest, that's where we're looking overnight tonight. Most of us having a dry night. The breeze will be picking up, but down to the southwest, thunderstorms spreading into southwest England, parts of South Wales by morning time. You could get woken up by a rumble of thunder here, if you can sleep, that is, because it will be quite a warm and sticky night in the southwest. Towns and cities holding up in the mid-teens. It's got a warm start to Thursday everywhere. Hazy sunshine for many to begin with across Scotland, northern England to eastern England, but down to the southwest, these thunderstorms dropping a lot of rain in a short space of time. Not great for the morning commute. Could be some hazards on the roads. Those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more.
Whether it's breaking royal news, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
At 9 o'clock this evening, it's Patrick Christie's. He'll be on until, I think, midnight, non-stop. Patrick, what have you got? Duracell Bunny, what have you got coming up this evening?
Thank you very much, Nigel. Absolutely huge exclusive for you. I have infiltrated a Channel migrant people smuggling gang. We have managed to get their phone numbers, their locations, their identities. We've handed it all over to the relevant authorities on both sides of the Channel. We've even got audio recordings of what they sound like. Here's a little clip of some of them in action.
طقس ربي يبارك ها شو رايك وجمعة وراحات شوف ما شاء الله شوف الأجواء.
The point here is that we've basically humiliated Keir Starmer. It is actually quite easy to smash the gangs. Very, very simple indeed. We've handed that over to the National Crime Agency. It's now over to them to do their jobs. All of that and much more. And I don't know about you, Nigel, but I can't wait to see what's on tomorrow's newspaper front pages. Well, luckily, I don't have to, and the viewers don't have to, because at 11 p.m. until midnight, it's Patrick Christie's Tonight Late Edition. The very first look at what I imagine is going to be an incredibly fiery set of front pages. Back to you, Nigel.
Excellent, Patrick, thank you. Well, great journalism there, and 3 hours of Patrick this evening with clearly a very, very good story. Now, we've had the First Minister from Gibraltar, Picardo, here in London today, and he and David Lammy were together, and there's been a big change on the border in Gibraltar, and who will check passports.
As a consequence of the paper-thin deal that was done by Boris Johnson, the people of Gibraltar were facing effectively a hard border. This is a border where 15,000 people are crossing every day. And that's why we had to roll our sleeves up and get this deal done.
Poor old First Minister there looking like a hostage. Hard border, Foreign Secretary. There's been a hard border for decades. I remember going back to the 80s and 90s and having real trouble getting into Gibraltar because the Spanish were so obstreperous and, of course, maintain their claim over the territory. What it now means, if you fly into Gibraltar, it will be Spanish officials checking your passports, not British one, and this on a territory that had a referendum not long ago, and 99% of them voted to stay British. Gibraltar became a little less British today, and I'm afraid this is where this government is. It's also shocking that we're allowing EU fishing boats to fish up to our 6-mile line until 2038, and written into the deal this government signed is a clause, which is jokingly called the Reform Clause, which says if that was to be broken, the EU could put tariffs on British goods. Add to that Chagos, where we've given away something that we already own at a cost of tens of billions of pounds. I believe that this government lose every single negotiation that they enter, and that is because they are basically globalists and don't really believe in Britain. Am I over the top there, Michelle?
No, I think you're right on the money. I mean, look, when they came back from America and they said it was a fantastic deal and it wasn't any better than what we'd had originally. And then, I mean, I personally want to now move to the Chagos Islands. You have complete income tax-free. It's fantastic. Paid for by us. And then they've shafted our fishermen. Then you look what they've done to Gibraltar. And I can't understand how anybody could argue that it's not going to infringe upon sovereignty when you're going to have a different country now manning the border.
Yeah, I mean, the argument for is that the border is a damn nuisance. It's always been a damn nuisance.
And the economic...
and that this makes life easier. Yeah. So that's the argument for,
It's the argument for, but you can't therefore then argue that it doesn't infringe upon sovereignty, because it does, and I think that's a fact. I think it just speaks again to the fact that who is this government standing up for? They're not standing up for Britain, they're not standing up for our interests or the British public. They're
international law.
Quite, and appeasing Brussels and keeping them happy and resetting everything and trying to get in with America, even though, you know, they would respect us more if we had a bit of backbone.
Do you think people care about this stuff?
I think they do, yeah, because I think people want... obviously, they want more money in their own pocket. They want a better deal for their family, but they want a better deal for our country as well. And they want to make sure that we are flying our flag and we are standing up for ourselves on the world stage.
It's pretty rotten all round, isn't it, Lloyd?
I think on the Gibraltar deal, you're being totally unfair, I'm afraid.
Am I? Go on.
There's been a long-running negotiation which the Gibraltar people have put forward the option of them doing passports alongside Frontex, European Union border staff. And they even built part of the airport to facilitate that a number of years ago, and it was the Spanish that withdrew from that deal. So this is not a deal that the Gibraltarians have not had a long time to think about, and in fact they have put forward. And the need to get it done now is that Spain is turning right-wing. The Vox Party and other right-wing populist parties are growing, and they are very extremely hostile to Gibraltar and have even talked about shutting the border entirely. So actually, Labour acting now has meant that we've got a good deal that will insulate us from a potential hostile government in Spain, because it will be underwritten by the European Union.
So we're scared of the Spanish, so we change everything.
It will be underwritten by the European Union. And when you arrive, you said it wouldn't be a British official. That's not what's going to happen. When you arrive, a British official will look at your passport and a Spanish official will look at your passport, and then you'll be able to enter. It's just the same as when I'm in St Pancras. A French official and a British official both look at my passport. We had these agreements where you have...
The border has always been sacrosanct. To the Gibraltarians, the border was always sacrosanct.
We have always had French border people in Britain, and the idea... And I agree that if we went and compromised about sovereignty, that would be a disaster. But that's not what's happened. This is what the Gibraltarian people want, and I visit very regularly, and they are happy about it.
I think there's a pattern of behaviour here, and I believe Gibraltar's a bit less British today. It's not the end of the world, I'll grant you that. Now, I never thought we'd see Greta Thunberg ever again. In fact, I hoped we'd never, ever see Greta Thunberg lecturing us ever again. But, of course, there she was on that sailing yacht going in, or attempting to go in, to Gaza. My What the Farage moment of the day is Donald Trump on Greta Thunberg. This is great.
Well, she's a strange person. She's a young, angry person. I don't know if it's real anger. It's hard to believe, actually. But I saw what happened. She's certainly different. Anger management. I think she has to go to an anger management class.
I thought that was absolutely brilliant. He was funny there, wasn't he?
He was, and look, she is an angry person, isn't she?
Yeah.
But she's also quite annoying, and the thing is that...
You've stolen my future!
Well, yeah, and she doesn't listen to the other side, she doesn't debate, she doesn't hear what everybody else is saying, she talks down to people, and ironically, she turns people off her agenda, doesn't she? I mean, anger itself isn't a bad thing, anger can fuel passion. But with her, I think it is a different kettle of fish.
Did Trump sum her up well?
Well, I think you can be an angry person, you can be a person that's very passionate, and the point of her stunt, and it's a stunt, was to raise awareness of how Israel is acting in international waters and stopping aid getting in, legitimate aid, and potentially causing a genocide. And it's quite right that people do everything they can, including stunts, just like people did under apartheid, made stunts at sporting events, etc. Does it change big politics? Does it put a lot of people off? Yes, those stunts often do. But I don't think it's a Greta thing. I think it's that's the nature of that kind of politics.
But she's back in our lives.
Well, we don't know for how long.
Oh, let's hope it's not too long. I really hope it's not too long.
I mean, you've done stunts before as well.
I've done a lot of stunts.
And you know sometimes they wind people up and they push people away. But you do it because it gets you the headline.
I just thought Trump was being quite funny there. And just interesting that Greta has come back and emerged after all these years. Were the government right to put sanctions on 2 Israeli cabinet ministers?
Quite right. But it is very interesting now.
Big move.
I think
I
was looking down the list. All the other countries that have ministers that are sanctioned are really the enemies of this country, you know, kind of Iran, Russia. There is no friendly country that has ministers in their government on our sanctions list. And I do think that that means that we need to step back and say, is this really a reliable ally anymore? Or should they be put in a...
I think that's a really interesting comment, because I've been saying, Michelle, for some time, I do not believe, I think the pressure on the left, the electoral pressure that is coming from the Greens, from the Liberal Democrats, from the Gaza independents, is pushing this government into... I think it's very difficult to think we're really still an ally of Israel's, isn't it?
I don't agree with Lloyd at all. And I think, look, this is a very difficult and awful situation that is happening in the Middle East. And, you know, what is happening to the Gazan people is awful, and we do need to get aid in. But we can't suddenly turn around and say that our history and our relationship with Israel is non-existent or has changed dramatically. We need to be communicating to them how we feel about this and actually having a voice.
Every turn. I mean, they're almost arrogant that they ignore Trump as well, kind of on certain
Well, I
things.
guess kind of if you'd lived through October the 7th and you were surrounded by people that actually wanted to obliterate you, you might feel like that.
Well, it's a long-running conflict, this. It's more than just October the 7th. That was a particular atrocity that, of course, will have shaken many people. But the danger with saying, you did this, so I now need to do worse, is that is the very thing that escalates wars. And the reasons we have the rules of war is to say, actually, you can't behave like that. Even if you feel hurt, you have to step back and cool off. And I'm afraid Israel has not stepped back and cooled off.
I tell you what, here on GB News, you do absolutely hear all sides of the argument, put passionately, but put sensibly. In a minute, what's going to happen to the Red Arrows? Are we really going to buy Russian planes?
What is the state of our economy? What is the state of our National Health Service? What is the state of our schools?
What on earth is going on?
Understanding Britain means understanding the state we are in. This is State of the Nation with me, Matt Goodwin, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays from 8 p.m. on GB News.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m. weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters, real people and real lives. That's what politics is all about.
The fact is Trump made a good start. No.
Straight answers, no spin, and just a couple of pints.
How many fingers have I got up?
About 10. So join me for Lee Anderson's Real World every Friday at 7 p.m. only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
because the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
We've all grown up with the Red Arrows. I mean, gosh, you know, you've got to be very, very old not to remember the Red Arrows. And yet, the stock we've got, the Hawk jets, are basically out of time. There's talk that by 2028, there could only be 6 of them and not the full crew. So what's to be done? This is a very, very iconic symbol, you know, and whether it's, you think back to, you know, the Queen's Jubilee or whatever it is, the Red Arrows are always still. The thrill of the Red Arrows has never gone away. But there's a real problem here. If we're going to replace them, do we use Russian? No, seriously, it's being talked about. Do we use Russian-made jets or do we use British jets? And is British engineering capable at a decent price of doing this? Well, I'm joined by Robin Southall, chairman of Aralis. This is your space. This is your area. The thought the Red Arrow's going is pretty awful, isn't it?
Well, the answer to your postulation is they mustn't go. They represent an iconic representation of all that's great in this country and all that's great for our aviation business, where this nation actually is a global leader, even today, in aerodynamics, and in providing quality products. Our job, I think, as an industry, is to pick up this challenge that you've just set out and say, right, why don't we?
Because it's a real threat.
It's a real challenge that they need to be replaced. The Strategic Defence Review actually said the Red Arrows need to be replaced, the Hawks need to be replaced with a cost-effective solution. And I want to make it really clear to you, Nigel, that after 5 decades, this is when this nation and its engineering and its industry should design and build the next jet of this nature.
So it would be a Hawk upgrade, would it? Or?
It would be a completely new Hawk. It would use digitised, computer-aided design using the state-of-art capabilities, mainly drawn from the automotive industry. We've got brilliant global partners. The UK has got a fantastic engineering base in aerospace, and it's got great people. I wouldn't say I was great, but I've been in the industry 35 years. My chief executive, who's younger than me, in fact, most people are younger than me, Nigel.
I believe you.
Thank you for that vote. Has been in the business 20 years, and we've got a great team. So we understand the risk. We want the risk. In fact, the SDR, Strategic Defence Review, stated we want to be more innovative, more agile, and after 5 decades, why don't we build our own jet?
So why is there even discussion of Russian-made jets being a suitable replacement? Is it that they're that much cheaper?
No, we will deliver the cheapest plane, be in no doubt. We will not only deliver the cheapest plane, if you allow me, but we will create 4,000 jobs. We will export this to the world. I am charging my team to deliver 500 exports around the world. Bringing untold value, soft power. I mean, so it goes without saying, it's a no-brainer that we should design and build this. And in a world of uncertainty, wouldn't it be good if we started building our own equipment where no one else is in control of it?
This is music to my ears.
This is possible. And to be fair to the Secretary of State, he has said that if we are going to increase defence spending, and I'm sure you would agree with this, let's not default to spend it on the big companies, established companies. Let's not spend it on imports. Let's develop our SME community. And I would like to say, as just one clear plug, Aurelius is the poster child for the regeneration of our economy going forward. And we can deliver to time, to cost, and we're really excited about the opportunity, which we hope will come to us.
And the Hawk jet, the Hawk upgrade, obviously brilliant for aerial displays and everything else. Military uses?
The Hawk actually has proven to be a very good old lady or gentleman in the world we live in. It's done a good job. And in fact, the Hawk did have a version that had air-to-air missiles on them. But basically, the Hawk is designed to cover that bridge between learning how to fly and becoming an operational test pilot on a frontline fighter. And that is what we can do, and we do it well, and we look forward to doing it.
Well, Robin, I'm all for the reindustrialisation of this country. I'm all for us making more of our own things. Thank you for coming in.
My pleasure.
And sharing your story. Well, in a moment, of course, it'll be State of the Nation with Knight of the Realm. So Jacob Rees-Mogg. I mean, we all have to sort of... I always tease him every night. What are you going to discuss tonight, Jacob?
Well, I might talk about you a bit, actually.
Oh, gosh.
Because I'm absolutely fascinated that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are following you and Zia Yusuf, that they've had this big bust-up. You managed to sort it out in 48 hours. They're taking a couple of weeks. And it's the amazing power of reform to influence American politics. So we're going to have a discussion on that. But we're also going to talk more seriously about Rachel Reeves's spending review and the fact there's no money. And it's really serious that nobody seems to be willing to get to grips with the fact that this country's run out of cash. And we're spending as if there's no tomorrow, endless spending plans with no idea of how to pay.
But the truth is, Jacob, that's been the case for many years.
Yeah, I agree with this. I'm not saying that the Tories were marvellous about this, but we need a fundamental reassessment of how we're spending money and how we grow the economy.
And the long-term gilt market price is higher than during the Liz Truss crisis indicated all. I'm done. It's over. I'm back tomorrow. First, though, the all-important weather.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Evening. Welcome to your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. It's been a warm and humid day today. That'll continue tonight and tomorrow, and the humidity sparking some thunderstorms in places too. Down to the southwest, that's where we're looking overnight tonight. Most of us having a dry night. The breeze will be picking up, but down to the southwest, thunderstorms spreading into southwest England, parts of South Wales by morning time. You could get woken up by a rumble of thunder here, if you can sleep, that is, because it will be quite a warm and sticky night in the southwest. Towns and cities holding up in the mid-teens. Got a warm start to Thursday everywhere. Hazy sunshine for many to begin with across Scotland, northern England to eastern England, but down to the southwest, these thunderstorms dropping a lot of rain in a short space of time. Not great for the morning commute. Could be some hazards on the roads. Those thunderstorms extending into parts of Wales and then through the day into Northern Ireland. So we do have Met Office yellow warnings in place for those thunderstorms. Most of Scotland, though, starting dry and fine, perhaps a little misty along some coast. That breeze will be quite noticeable, getting quite gusty at times across eastern areas and also close to these heavy downpours. Could see some of them developing across southeast England. Heaviest ones likely further west, but then come the afternoon, if skies brighten, we may well spark further thunderstorms over parts of the Midlands. Far southwest of England should get a little bit brighter, whereas it stays pretty wet in Northern Ireland. Quite warm and quite humid. With some sunshine, we could again get temperatures into the mid-20s across parts of eastern England. Many places, they're a little bit cooler than that because of the heavy downpours and because of more cloud. Continued risk of thunderstorms during the course of tomorrow evening. Friday looks a little drier to begin with, but still some showers for Northern Ireland and parts of Wales. The threat of more thunderstorms then coming up from the south later on Friday. There's another Met Office yellow warning for that across East Anglia and the southeast. Friday, probably the warmest of this week. We may get to 30 Celsius in the east.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
£54,321 in totally tax-free cash could make your year the best yet. How would you react if you got that winning call?
Oh my God, I'm going to cry. Oh my God. Thank you.
You weren't expecting to get that call today, were you?
No, I wasn't.
For a chance to win £54,321 cash, text cash to 63225. One entry costs £2.50 plus one standard network rate message. Or text bonus to 63225. 5 entries cost £5 plus one standard network rate message. Go to gbnews.com/win. Entries start at £2.50. Call 0903 686 3232. Calls cost £2.50 plus your network access charge. Or post your name and number to GB14 PO Box 8690 Derby DE1 9TT. UK only. Entrance must be 18 or over. Lines close at 4 p.m. on the 1st of August. Please check the closing time if listening or watching on demand. Good luck.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
From the school run to the home run, watch a new show for all of Britain.
He can say whatever he wants.
A straight-talking show where all voices are heard.
And, you know, when are we going to stop talking about smashing the gangs and actually do it?
With the stories that matter from every part of our country.
There's a bit of a crash landing there for your Chancellor.
Bold, fearless and standing up for you. That's me, Martin Daubney, 3 p.m. till 6 p.m, weekdays, here only on GB News. The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Westminster's full of talk, but out here, it's the real world.
Am I allowed to talk now?
No, that's it. This is where it matters. Real people and real lives. That's what politics